So, imagine a civilization as advanced as ancient Egypt, with these huge, meticulously planned cities and massive trade networks. A civilization that just thrived for centuries, and then just vanished. Gone. For thousands of years, nobody even knew it existed. Well, let's dive right into the incredible story of the Indus Valley Civilization.
You know, more than 4,000 years ago, in what is now Pakistan and northwest India, a whole network of cities, kind of like this one, De La Vera, were humming with life. They were home to a really remarkable people who archaeologists now call the Harappans, and they left behind one of the most fascinating mysteries in history.
Because here's the thing, after about 700 years of flourishing, they disappeared. The cities emptied out. So the big questions are, who exactly were these people, and where in the world did they go? We're going to investigate the clues they left for us.
Okay, so our very first clue comes from the ground itself. From the absolutely astonishing ruins of their cities. And we're not talking about just random collections of buildings here. These were masterpieces of urban design.
And you got to understand, this was a true civilization. They had a sophisticated government that could organize building these massive cities, a trade network that stretched for hundreds and hundreds of miles, and as we're about to see, their own unique system of writing. They had it all. They checked every single box.
Now, what's really amazing here is the structure. Just look at these streets, wide, straight, laid out in a perfect grid. A lot of them were even lined up with the cardinal directions, north, south, east, west. This tells you this wasn't a city that just grew randomly over time. No way. This was a blueprint executed on a massive scale. It really points to some kind of powerful central authority with a really clear vision.
And right in the heart of Mohenjo-daro, one of their biggest cities, archaeologists found this incredible structure. They call it the Great Bath. It's about 12 by 7 meters, built with these perfectly laid bricks, and then sealed with a natural tar to make it completely waterproof.
But what was it for? It's a huge debate. A public pool seems kind of unlikely since we know most of the private houses actually had their own bathrooms. So was it a private bath for some kind of king? Or, and this is what a lot of people think, was it used for really important religious rituals? We just don't know for sure. The debate is still wide open.
And this is where they were way ahead of their time. This shows their focus on hygiene. Nearly every single house was connected to a citywide drainage network. These covered drains ran underneath the main streets, carrying all the wastewater away from people's homes. This level of sanitation was basically unheard of in most of the ancient world. It's another huge piece of evidence that points to a highly organized society that actually cared about public health.
So we know they were brilliant engineers, but what were they like as people? Well, our second set of clues comes from the objects they used every day. And these things, they paint a picture of a really sophisticated and resourceful society.
Let's just start with something simple, food. They had a really rich and diverse diet. They grew staples like wheat and barley, but get this, they were also the very first people in this part of the world to cultivate cotton for clothing. And recent analysis of their pottery shows they were even spicing things up with turmeric and ginger. And you might be asking, how did they feed these enormous cities? Well, they had advanced agriculture. This little clay model of a plow right here, this is our proof. It shows they had the technology they needed to farm efficiently and produce enough food to support a huge urban population.
The Harappans were also just master craftspeople. These carnelian beads with their super intricate designs, they weren't just beautiful. They were a major export. These have been found as far away as modern-day Iran. That just shows you how prized their work really was.
And it wasn't just jewelry. Even everyday objects, like this ivory comb, show an incredible level of artistry and attention to detail. This was clearly a culture that valued beauty and design.
And then we have figures like this one. This gives us a tantalizing little glimpse into their social structure. We call him the Priest King. He's one of the most iconic artifacts ever found from this civilization. But who was he? A ruler? A high priest? Honestly, we don't know. He's this incredible icon of power, but his actual identity is a total mystery.
But the Harappans didn't just leave behind these images of, solemn authority. They also gave us this, the dancing girl. And what a contrast, right? She's made of bronze, and she is all life and movement. Look at that confident, totally relaxed posture. Her left arm is just completely covered in bangles, a tradition that you can still see in parts of India today. So you have these two figures showing two sides of the same coin, a powerful, organized society, but also one that was filled with art and life and individuals we can almost kind of relate to.
All right, now for our third and final clue. These cities, they weren't isolated. They weren't living in a bubble. They were major players in a vast, interconnected world, linked by land and, even more impressively, by sea.
So this is the dockyard at Lothal, a Harappan city in modern-day Gujarat. This thing is massive, over 200 meters long. It's one of the world's earliest known docks. This is undeniable proof of large-scale maritime trade. Ships would sail from here all the way to Mesopotamia and the Arabian Peninsula.
And how did they manage all this trade? Well, in large part, with these. Thousands and thousands of these small, intricate seals have been found. They're carved from a soft stone called steatite, and they usually feature an animal, some real, some totally mythical, and a line of symbols above it.
So what were they for? Well, archaeologists believe they were pressed into wet clay tags on bundles of goods. They basically acted like a modern-day corporate logo or a signature, a way to identify the trader and guarantee where the product came from.
And those symbols at the top? That's the Harappan script, and it is the biggest mystery of them all. Despite finding thousands of examples, no one in the world has been able to decipher it. It is one of the last major undeciphered writing systems of the ancient world.
Which brings us right back to our central mystery. We have a civilization of master planners, skilled artists, global traders. So what happened to them? How could they just vanish?
This timeline pretty much shows their whole journey. They rise up around 2600 BCE, they flourish for 700 years, but then, starting around 1900 BCE, the cities were abandoned. The people didn't vanish entirely, but their complex urban society just collapsed. They went back to a simpler, rural way of life.
For decades, the popular theory was a really dramatic one, a violent invasion. You know, some rival army sweeping in and destroying these great cities. It's a great story, but it has one major problem. There's just no evidence for it. Archaeologists haven't found any signs of widespread war, no burned cities, no layers of ash. The cities weren't destroyed. They were just abandoned. Instead, the current theories point not to a human enemy, but to a much more powerful force, the environment itself. Scientific analysis of lake beds and soil shows that around 2200 BCE, a massive climate shift happened. The monsoons, which were the lifeblood of the whole region, got a lot weaker. This led to long droughts, and the vital Sarasvati River, a river that was larger than the Indus and the heart of their farming world, it started to shrink and eventually just dried up.
Without that reliable water, their advanced agriculture just fell apart, and the cities, these incredible marvels of engineering, could no longer feed their people. It's a pretty sobering reminder that even the most sophisticated society is completely dependent on the environment that sustains it. So we're left with this powerful story, a civilization that mastered city planning and global trade, but vanished when its climate changed. The real question for us is, what can we learn from their lost world?